Real briefly, I want to talk quickly about the arrow tools. There are two main arrow tools, the black arrow tool, or called the selection tool, and the white arrow tool, or the direct select tool. The black arrow tool has a shortcut of V. The white arrow tool has a shortcut of A. The black arrow tool will select entire objects. If you hold Shift and click, you can select multiple objects. If you click and drag, you can select multiple objects. Notice on the E, I did not drag over the entire E, but it still selected the entire object. If I hit A and go to the white arrow tool, then I can select specific anchor points, but notice that the other anchor points are not selected. Same thing, if I click and drag, then I can select all of the anchor points and paths that fall within that selection, but it does not select the anchor points that are outside of that selection. If I select something with the black arrow tool, then I have a bounding box or transform controls, and I can click and drag. If I hold, I can click and drag this way, and that will expand. If I hover just outside of this selection, I can rotate. If I go like this and I hold Shift, it'll snap things to proportions, or it'll make the ratio of height to width stay exactly the same. It pulls from the corner unless I hold Alt. If I hold Alt, it pulls from the center. If I hold Alt and Shift, it pulls from the center and constrains the proportions. This works on shapes as well. So I can come in here and I can grab just specific anchor points like these two if I want to extend this over. Notice it doesn't do anything to the rest of the shape if I'm using the white arrow tool. If I am using the black arrow tool, then you'll notice that it expands that shape. Notice that curve got stretched as well because the whole object was being stretched. So in this case, I'd use the white arrow tool, stretch it. Now as I'm dragging something, I can also hold Shift, and that will lock it to a 45-degree angle, 90-degree angle. So I'm going straight or vertical or diagonal. The other thing I can do with the white arrow tool is I can deal with handlebars. It doesn't create handlebars, that's what the pen tool does, but I can manipulate those handlebars, and if those handlebars are not broken, which we'll talk about when we talk about the pen tool, then you can move anchor points around, or the handlebars that are not broken will act as a seesaw and will kind of manipulate that curve. We'll get more into that as we talk about the pen tool and the convert anchor point tool. But those are the selection tools and the direct selection tools, or black arrow and white arrow. Those are definitely two keystrokes that you want to remember. V is the black arrow tool, which will select an entire object, and A is the white arrow tool, which will select an anchor point or a path or part of an object.